All right. So this time, a long-time guest came back. Welcome back, James. You,
Good to have you. I'm here.
you want to give him something?
Yes, James, welcome back from the grave. We would like to formally offer you and invite you into the Drip Club. You may now. You are now.
You're an
welcome.
official.
Welcome.
You're an official club member now.
Yeah, to wear our drip.
Is this club or cult? Question mark.
You used to be president. I don't know. If it's a call, it's your call. Okay, so this one's gonna be fun. I got him on today for a couple episodes. We're gonna talk about Christian nationalism. This is a bit of a boogeyman name, at least for like the Western hemisphere of the earth, where every time it seems like any political discussion, Christian nationalism or worse, white Christian nationalism comes up, and then people just kind of like, oh, that's bad, that's jingoism, and all that stuff. But okay, but here's a fun start. If I put the word on the table, Christian nationalism, what do you guys think about? Like, what's the first thing that comes off in your head? Hanbin, you want to go first?
Well, I don't really have a solid idea actually of what Christian nationalism is, but looking at the word itself, I would think it's a good thing.
Right. Okay, so why?
Because, well, nationalism is something related to the nation, and then when you put the word Christian in front of it, it means your nation is a Christian nation.
Right. You want Christian is good.
Christian is good.
We're not abolishing nation.
Yep.
So you want your nation to be Christian.
Yeah.
And again, would you say that's an absurd vision to like cast publicly? To like say, yes, I want my nation to be Christian eventually?
Well, not really.
Right, okay.
I feel like it's something to strive for actually.
Right, okay. Right.
No, before you, I'll go next because my monkey brain was just like Christian nationalism. What? That's
Right.
it.
So what comes off your head?
Nothing. I was just nothing. I was blank.
Right.
But then, I mean, from my understanding, it seems like this is serious enough for us to not have beer. But but for us, but it's chill enough for us to still hang out. So yeah,
Yeah, okay.
because of this, I can't have beer.
if we have beer, well, they're just not gonna take us.
Yes.
They're gonna think we're a bunch of anglicized Chinese dudes. but
Any beer company wants to sponsor us.
but it's funny because again, okay, I won't get into the objections now. How about you, James? When the term comes up, what do you think?
In Malaysian context, nationalism is a typically not the most positive thing. We have at least as a Chinese person that you come up with all kinds of we have the early days of the founding, like the reason why English medium schools used to be a thing in Malaysia.
Okay.
The reason why that got killed off is because uprising of Malay nationalism actually.
Interesting.
The idea that basically you want to abandon so-called the colonial past to such an extent,
Right.
such that subsequently,
You have to get rid of
literally overnight, the English medium schools all became Malay medium schools.
Crazy. That's
Yeah,
overnight.
that actually happened. So if you bring up the word nationalism, to my mind as a 25-year-old at this point, having seen what I've seen in Malay in a Malaysian context, it's never been the most positive thing.
Right.
But
It's tied to revolution.
Yeah.
But I guess there's a quote-unquote good thing attached in the sense of, okay, you want the colonial identity to go away. Why? Mainly because you want the Malaysian identity to kind of stay intact.
Yeah.
There is an assumption that both identities can't exist
Yeah.
together. So that I just found that interesting from kind of the way it's expressed. But yeah, was there anything else?
Yeah, but Christian nationalism as a whole, I only know about it in an American context. But if you're giving me like in a straight Malaysian case, I wouldn't say that you can say that it's a completely bad thing.
Right.
I don't think you can just be like
Right.
throw it away.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, before I move on, two things. We're trying out a new recording system,
Yeah.
a new audio system. If there's any interruptions or if there's any background noise, his editing skills failed you.
Right.
Yeah. And like one more last thing, are you wearing a hat like a little bit off?
Is it?
It's fine. Our side profile. You gotta care for your side profile.
Yeah.
On your setup.
Okay, I'm
Yeah, but it's fine. Hey, my audience endures my poor video quality before we had a studio.
Bro, that was so potato, bro.
Before we had a studio, but I'm grateful. So. No, but okay, they're not here for good audio quality. They're here for good theology. But okay, anyways, we got a lot of interesting stuff. So nationalism in itself technically isn't wrong or isn't bad, and I would argue that's mainly because nations will stay. Nations as a concept will stay. We'll have borders, we'll have ethnicities, we'll have identities. We're told in Revelation, the nations will flow into New Jerusalem. So seems like even then, nations are still a concept. They're still a thing. But okay, the question now becomes: is it a lot like how you present it, where the identity of the colonizers can't stay if Malaysia wants to be its own thing? If Malaysia wants to have their own unique identity, the colonizing identity has to go away. But then, Christianity is the religion of the colonizers. Right? Now here's the funny part, right? Muslim is also not your indigenous religion.
Yeah, but
So-
slightly.
Right. So to have Malay nationalism, they can't do the whole rhetoric of, Christianity is the religion of the colonizer. So is the Muslim. Let's not pretend, right? The pagans were here first. So that's not the problem. But then, if we go online, there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of discussions surrounding, it can't happen. It should not be a thing. But then, do you guys run across those kind of conversations, those kind of objections? And if yes, what are some of them? Is that maybe you want to tell?
No,
No?
my monkey brain has never
No,
encountered
I
something
haven't
like
seen.
this.
Okay,
But it could be because my friend groups are not so.
right. They haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
That's fine. What about Hanbin maybe?
Probably something like Christian nation. That's impossible.
Yeah,
Something
impossible.
like that. Like
The
'cause
impossibility
The
of it.
impossibility of Christianity on a national scale,
Right.
instead of separating it, instead of separation of church and state. So that something like that.
Yeah.
They think it's impossible for a nation as a whole to embrace Christianity because of the things that are
Right.
the way things are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do encounter that, but this is the funny thing. I encounter that from the similar kind of sphere that's gonna have a lot of the whole patriotic programs. So for example, the reason I made this episode is actually because FES, Fellowship of Evangelical Students, they're gonna have a conference. They call it the National Conference. And then they said, and the tagline is basically, discover what it means to be a
Malaysian
Malaysian Christian. Nationality, Christian.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm assuming they already accept the whole hypothesis. But from the same kind of group of people, I hear the same kind of objection where it's like, but it's impossible. So the question becomes, what are they advocating? What is
The alternative.
What is Christian nationalism?
right? Is it like high up in the pie in the sky type thing? Do you have any objections that come to your mind, or you've come across before?
I'm just objections. It's just not well defined
Right, fair.
because
yeah.
it's thrown up. This guy
Thrown
is
left, right, center.
yeah all kind. So maybe I can give some the definition. Guy literally asked for definitions of Christian nationalism.
Mhm.
His words were definitions of Christian nationalism, and he shows them later. I'll mention them in a bit. But it's like I didn't include one that was just because it was just a bunch of swastikas. Like a guy actually just like when he asked Christian national what's the definition, somebody just put like a bunch of swastikas. But here's a bunch of definitions. Christian nationalism is a theocracy. Not necessarily in name, but definitely in the free will choices politicians make. Okay? Question mark. Another one, political ideology added to gospel. Jesus plus a particular American socio-political identity. CN, I'm not sure. CN says Jesus is not enough. Oh yeah, CN is correct. CN short for
Christian
Christian
nationalism.
nationalism. Yeah. Wrong means to accomplish the Great Commission. Wrongly
Right.
applying authority of church to nation.
Right.
Another definition, it's kind of become like the term legalism, where legalism is defined by having one more rule than I like,
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that.
So
There's a bunch more.
yeah, that's fair. And let me just throw a few to kind of complete our list. There's some who would say, well, church and state should be separate.
Yeah. And then they'll usually cite like King Henry IV, the one with like 7 wives.
The first one, the
Yeah.
one that started the
separation.
British side Reformation.
Yes.
Yeah, but they assume like, oh, Christian nationalism means the church becomes the head of the country. Again, is it there? Is it not there? Technically, well, we're not gonna get there yet. There's a couple other like gospel saves, not politics. Right? So they're assuming we're replacing politics as the messianic figure if we do Christian nationalism, I guess. There's the one you said doesn't fulfill the Great Commission. Jesus didn't tell us to make a country. He told us to make disciples. And yeah, the final one is the typical unrealistic. This is I heard this physically, personally myself. It's the Western fantasy. It's not. But here's the thing. The one thing to whoever told me that, because I'm not gonna name him, but the person who told me that, I'll remind you, transgenderism, homosexuality, all that, 5 years ago was that Western fantasy. So the fact that we're repeating the same rhetoric, oh, it's the Western fantasy, it's so far away from us, we don't even need to theologically deal with it. Ha, you wait 2, 3, 5 years. but okay, anyway, I'm gonna make this a slow burn type of thing. I'm gonna make it so that our case becomes undeniable and hopefully not disagreeable. The first off is actually the passage people love to quote, which is in Philippians 3, and I'm just gonna read it out loud. I was gonna put this at the end, but then I thought, you know what? Let's start with the definition. Philippians 3, beginning verse 20, I'm just gonna read it, where it says, "For our citizenship is in heaven, from which we also eagerly wait for a Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform our lowly body and may be conformed to his glorious body according to the working by which he is able even to subdue all things to himself." So this passage gets quoted all the time, and the application, the immediate application, is always, well, see, your citizenship, it's not in Malaysia, it's not Indonesia,
It's in heaven.
it's heaven.
So you don't have to care about
You
the
don't.
things of earth.
Yeah, you don't care about the next election. You don't care about, how much oil price, how much rice, how much egg is gonna cost.
On the bright side, second-hand cars are kind of cheaper now.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
getting even closer to my dream. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to care about those things. Those are your earthly citizenship. You care about your Bible studies, your prayer, and maybe your worship practice. Once in a
That's
while.
it. That's inherently Gnostic.
Yeah,
It's
right.
not talking.
Sadly, that's Gnostic. So, and here's the funny thing. They would probably, if I present it that way, the detractors would probably agree, oh no, I'm not saying you shouldn't care at all, but clearly it's higher. But let me examine the text just real quick, right? What is the context? And if you guys don't know, Philippi didn't used to be part of Rome. Philippi used to be part of Macedonia. Rome conquered, and now Philippi all have Roman citizenship. What does that mean? Does that mean if, let's say, the old kingdom, Macedonia, the Macedonian Empire attacks Philippi, they run away, they get whisked away to Rome? No, they can't. They're like a whole island. Right? What's gonna happen? If Macedonia attacks, Rome will defend. That's why they kind of want to make this a retreatist passage. Oh, so you run away to heaven. That's, retreat, your pie is in the sky. Don't care about the things down here. But citizenship, the word civitas, is to brandish your protector. Right? If you're a citizen of Rome, who's your protector? Rome, Caesar. Caesar is your lord. He will come, protect you, defend you from all the invading cities. Right? He will subdue, like Jesus Christ will, the opposing party. Right? And so, Paul, using the same word, the same analogy, says, your citizenship means your Lord is in heaven. He's gonna come down, he's gonna subdue Rome. If Rome comes down to the Christians and essentially bully them, persecute them, and all those things. So again, this passage can't be used as the typical retreatist anti-nationalist passage. But okay, and that's kind of the first one I wanted to tackle with. And the second one I want to tackle with is usually regarding politics. Oh, you shouldn't mix politics and whatnot. But again, let me ask you, what is the basic quote-unquote gospel proclamation? Like, let's say we want to proclaim the gospel. Usually, how does it start?
Repent.
You have
Repent.
sinned, you have
Repent.
sinned, you have sinned, you have sinned, your sins have been forgiven by Christ. He died upon the cross for the
Right.
forgiveness of sins, died and rose again.
Right, and then after that, you have to live under.
Yes, Lord.
It's not written.
So, a good chunk of it that leads up to the gospel proclamation is Christ is Lord. And Lord, again, we're always back to this whole concept. Lord was a political term. But Paul didn't quiver when he borrows a political term. Right? It's like saying, oh, Jesus is YDPA or whatever. And that's not shocking because here's the thing, Caesar has taken on a messianic figure. Right? Caesar saves, Caesar delivers. And that's kind of the other argument. They say, well, we want a secular state. Christianity can be over the state, or God can be over the state. The state has to be ruled by, human secular institution. But the basic inescapable concept is you must always have a God. If you don't have God in the public square, then the state is going to be your God. And in fact, we have gotten God out of the public square, and now our government slowly becomes God. You kind of see it everywhere in terms of there's poor people everywhere. Why isn't the government doing anything? Or there's sick people everywhere. Why isn't the government doing anything?
The dream of the idea that the government somehow has a giant bazooka to fix
Yeah,
everything.
he's the great Sky Nanny. They can deal with all your problems. He can fix all of your problems if you simply obey. Right? But that's not true. And in fact, the fact that we have retreated, Christians took Jesus Christ out of the public square. We have replaced, the public square didn't become secular like the wish dream is. Right? It didn't become neutral. It became statist. It became the state becomes its new god. So clearly, that's something we gotta oppose. We clearly can't agree with that one. But sadly, the problem is I think a lot of our Christian leaders stop there. Right? They are okay with caring about politics, but they're not okay with introducing Jesus straight into it. I don't know if you run across those kind of problems where when your faith is about to be manifest in public, like you ask, why don't we do something publicly? Like, why don't we pray publicly? Why don't we sing publicly? Why don't we talk about theology when we talk about human rights and a bunch of other things? They would say, well, they don't believe in your Bible. They don't believe in your book. But I got a funny analogy. Let's say there's a guy with a gun and he wants to mug someone, and then points the gun and says, "Give me all your wallet." And then the guy who gets mugged says, "Oh, sorry, sir, I don't believe in guns." and then he goes, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you don't believe in guns." Okay, with that kind of scenario, who doesn't actually believe in the gun? The one holding it. Right? He doesn't believe he has the power to threaten the guy, and the guy is the same with our Bible. We're told our Bible are two-edged swords. It can cut through everything. We brandish it at the state, and then the state says, "Oh, we don't believe what your book believes," and we go, "Oh, sorry. I guess I shouldn't impose my double-edged sword." Right? It doesn't make sense. The image has to be inherently imposing, but maybe that's also why people are afraid. I don't know, but what you guys think, but generally that's my postulation on why how to say public Christianity has kind of escaped the sphere.
Malaysia's dynamics between East and West is we have East Malaysia and West Malaysia. East Malaysia is the most. This is Sarawak. You have a yearly Christmas parade.
Right.
So that's a different thing. Sarawak has that freedom because they are
Right.
because they are a majority Christian state.
It's gonna be a majority Christian country soon.
I had to preface that with a simple talk.
He's one of those Sarawak independent sympathizer.
Or am I?
Right. No, but I feel like that happens not by kind of waiting for it to be allowed. We're not waiting for the state to eventually be like, you know what, Jesus can come in later on. I think we surrendered that space first. We were there. We already were ahead of the culture. But the Christians just decide to abandon it.
If anything, in that sense, there's a point where, because we all know, most of us know that Sarawak has this tendency to assert itself.
Right.
And that's why it's maintained its freedoms as it stands. It's getting more and more bold each year now, the
Yeah.
more I notice.
And
So
yeah.
they managed to maintain what they want for
Right.
that. The age old story in West and East, the what's the word? Slight animosity between East and West is we go there, the West goes there, takes all the oil, and the East is angry because that's all their resources taken away from them.
Yeah, and then, but it's the right
So-
thing to say, well, that's our resource, you should at least pay for it. You don't get to brandish this whole nationalist, oh, we're kinsmen card. So that's a funny thing, right? The state actually uses the citizenship card to steal from the people instead of how an actual law should exercise, which is protect those under their civitas. So
Yeah.
I just found that hilarious. But another thing that was funny, I remember last Christmas, I went to a mall in Pavilion Bukit Jalil, and this was like at the height of the whole Israel-Palestine conflict, and yet they were playing Okam Okam Emmanuel, ransom captive Israel.
You and I was there with you, I think.
Yeah.
I was there with you.
And that was I just looked at that, and it was such a funny thing because it seems like nobody cares of kind of the ramification of that song playing in public, right? But here's the thing: the people are not, rioting over that particular song. They might. they rioted over dumb things before, but usually it's when the government wants to hide a couple of controversies around the back, right? They'll just start a couple.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just found that funny. I don't know if if there was any other objection we need to tackle, or was there any other question on how Christian nationalism should or should not look like.
Mm.
So I got a couple more.
Which denomination dominates?
There you go. Right. So, and this is funny thing. In the FES, the National Conference, kind of like advertisement on their website or their Instagram,
Yeah.
they kind of ask, well, seems like Christians struggle to find identity. They try to find it in their denom, they try to find it in their church, or maybe their ethnicity or whatever.
I'm just gonna say it. I don't think that's really a actual struggle.
That's not.
It's not a struggle.
I don't think that's real.
The people who go are charismatic.
Oh no, yeah. I mean,
But even then, like even those in the main line, I don't think those in the main line are having that kind of problem. I just like to point that out.
yeah, no, that's
Oh.
but I'm gonna be fair. Some of them might attach mostly to those things. Where
Maybe.
they
It's a
attach,
maybe.
yeah, but it's not definitely not a struggle. but I think that proves our point in the sense of you will definitely attach to an identity. So the question of what does it mean to be a Christian and a Malaysian at the same time? It is something that you can't dismiss as a Western wish dream. No, it's real. If you don't have a identity somewhere, you're gonna adopt some other ones, right? And sometimes it's the questionable ones. Yeah, and then again, it doesn't have to be the secular status version or the full like giga jingoist patriotic kind, because Paul, Roman citizen, and yet he talks about overthrowing Rome with the gospel. He talks to the king. He pleads with the king. He doesn't cause anarchy and all that, but he clearly isn't afraid to say, well, the gospel is higher than Rome is. Yeah, it's higher than my quote unquote earthly citizenship is. And then again, now the retreatist thing. He's well, Jesus Christ is gonna come down. He's gonna judge. He's gonna rule. So, yeah, the question is, like, why are we squeamish about those things? Why are we retreating from the public square? And that's kind of what I was trying to lead at. But another thing I like to bring up, you did Psalm 34
Yes.
recently for our prayer meditation. That was a amazing psalm. Particularly, do you know why? I'm gonna ask you because you went through the psalm. We're talking about.
Yes, let me look at the psalm again.
You don't need to just remember the context.
Thank God he did it.
It was David, right? It was
Oh yeah,
David.
it's David.
You do it sometimes?
He fled to
He fled to
Achish, king of Gath.
Achish,
Yeah.
king of Gath. He ran away to Gath.
Yep, and then-
He's an Abimelech. He's a king of Gath. But okay, so the context was he pretended to be insane.
Yep.
He didn't want to get captured because he's definitely gonna kill David. And if you don't know why, it's because Goliath was from Gath. David literally killed one of their.
Yeah.
Yeah, his- right. So Achish is like, give me David. And then when he got captured, he has to pretend to be insane.
Crazy.
But he writes that psalm in the middle of kind of that public court. And in that psalm, he goes, the Lord will deliver his people. We will not be ashamed. He'll drive out all our fears. And then he says, come little children, I'll teach you who is the Lord. So in a public Gentile court, he prays and he goes, you guys are kids. Listen to me. I'll show you what it means to fear Yahweh. Right? And that's the kind of faith that the psalmist teaches us. When's the last time our churches, our synods, our dioceses pray in public for the sins that our nation commits? Right? Our nation commits a lot of sin, and yet we retreat. I don't know why, but we are afraid to engage in like political things and like economic things and just generally public theology overall. And then I don't know about you guys, but usually when you run into panels of public theology, what is it that you guys actually run into? I got a few examples of mine. I don't know if you guys ever had panels where it's in Malaysia and they want to talk about public theology.
Very often it's about the Sharia
The
cases, yeah,
okay.
and about why, it's typically a lot of emotional arguments backed up by holiness. It's typically seen from a specific party, and then after that the overwhelming, at least my circle opposes that quite strongly, and the typical opposition to that argument is, why are you arguing religion over state? So it's like the presupposition is usually it's usually separate, and arguing religion is that evidence for stupidity.
Right. So
Yeah.
but
And in this context, it kind of is, but like
right. But that kind of argument backfires on us.
Yes, it does.
Because we want to be like, well, get Muslim out of the public sphere because we don't want none of that religion stuff. By doing so, we take Jesus out of the public sphere. Because we're saying, or the public sphere is free for all. It's all fair game. No one's in charge. No one is Lord.
yeah.
But as the one quote that everyone loves, the only quote probably anyone loves from Abraham Kuyper says, every square inch belongs to me, says Jesus Christ. There's not a single block that he doesn't own. So we don't get to say those things. We don't get to say, well, I can't argue religiously about marriage, about sex, about economics, about how you should run your business, right? But then, the West, I think the reason the West entertains the discussion of Christian nationalism is because they're starting to realize it's not that God disappears, they just change the God. Now someone is sued because they don't want to make a gay wedding cake.
Yeah.
So who's the God now? The God of spirituality. They just changed. Now there's a blasphemy law against gay people. There's blasphemy law against tranny people.
It
People who
just
are
always exists.
right. So blasphemy law, and that's the funny thing, right? Christian nationalism. One of the big objection is, oh, you're gonna kill people for saying Jesus Christ, presumptuously or vainly. But then people don't realize we already have blasphemy law everywhere. Every society, no matter where, has blasphemy law. It's not just it's not just the Middle Eastern thing. America has it. You get canceled if you say certain things. That's basically blasphemy law. Malaysia, we literally cannot commit treason in verbal form. Right? There is a bunch of things that we say that can get us.
Say. Not here.
They can get us killed right now.
Uploads the video anyways.
I don't know about me. You guys definitely might get killed if you say certain things.
Bro,
You'll get deported at least.
Or I get killed, which would risk, I guess, war.
Oh no!
Yeah, that would just be hilarious. But yeah, so those are again, and just a bunch of other kind of objection. I don't know if you've run into other kinds. We've had one talk one time by we attended a talk from another CF by Hannah Yo. Yeah.
Oh yeah!
It was
I remember that.
It was about politics.
I was there for that.
Yeah. And then we went for it. And the only thing she talks about was, well, if you want to be a politician, you really need this private message from God that I don't think anyone's ever gonna receive.
Everyone's running away from it, so.
Yeah, but it's so weird. Like, really, you're an activist. You should know what it means when a legislation is being built. When what goes into the considerations that goes into a legislation. Isn't that what young Christians who want to aspire to be Malaysian Christians, right? They still want to be Malaysian. They still want to care about what's happening down here, not just their Bible studies and prayers. But they don't ever talk about that.
For that one, I think that no fault of her own, but rather that there's whenever the politician is somehow having to talk in university in that capacity, people breathe down your neck.
I know, but that's the question of well, a lot of people breathe down Paul's neck.
Yeah.
Eventually, the axe swings down on it. But yeah, you kind of cannot kowtow that way. You kind of have to speak out, and you have to fight for essentially Christianity to enter back into the public sphere. Because again,
The irony is that Muslims say that while the Christians cannot.
yeah, and I think, and that's funny, right?
Yeah.
Because where a lot of people are realizing they kind of don't want a weak religion.
Yeah.
They don't want this squeamish. Oh, we're not trying to force our religion on you or whatnot. But religion comes with law.
Yeah.
Law has to be enforced, like it or not, right? If we're gonna say homosexuality is a sin, not only is it a sin, it's a crime, right? It's a crime against God. Then we have to say, yeah, we're gonna impose certain things on people, and we're squeamish about it. The Muslims are like, oh yeah, sodomy, death. And sodomy is,
well, not death and no death.
Is it not death here?
Apparently not death.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
if it was death, then the most recent prime minister would be dead, right?
He has charges of sodomy?
Yeah, he does.
That was the thing that brought him down.
No, yeah.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah.
You're gonna get cancelled for this.
Uploads anyway.
No, but it's again, I think it's still a thing where you gotta acknowledge the other religions will eventually impose what they believe anyway. And again,
It already happened actually.
yeah, we're already here. The Muslims are doing it. Even if the Muslims quit the public sphere religiously at the majority,
Yeah.
someday another demon,
Something, yeah.
7 more demons are gonna come replace. So we kind of can't. We bought into the myth of neutrality. That one day, hopefully, the public sphere will be like just empty of gods. That people would just not impose anything on anyone anymore. Again, that's the lie. And I think Christians are really squeamish. They're the kind that's like don't really want to force it. You gotta wait till someone gives you the seat. Till someone gives Jesus the seat.
It's a cultural thing. We are genuinely afraid of what could befall us.
Right.
It's even when I talked about all this back when I was a kid, even my mom did actually scold me for scold me about how do I articulate this? Nah,
School you about something like which one, bro?
There's a lot of things.
There's a lot of things, but in terms of dealing with religion in particular, you get
Yeah, it can't be overly public.
you can't be overly public.
Like you can't really.
Yeah, people don't believe.
Yeah.
Don't argue that.
I mean, the entire thing that we are standing on is that I pray to my God, you pray to
Yeah.
your God.
Right. Leave
That's
it.
kind of literally the balance that we
That's the
think.
cultural.
I think I got raised differently then. I
Okay.
was really taught to wear it on my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's good. But again, that's what we need in the sense of when we enter the public sphere.
Yeah, but my parents are OGs though.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
way older.
Yeah,
way
no, like
previous.
the pioneers of church first gen, like
I see.
they are OGs. Like,
Yeah,
so
and again,
so it makes
that's
sense why they would teach me
yeah.
that.
Here's the thing, right? You don't build institutions
Yeah.
by being sheepish.
Yeah.
You really don't. We inherit the institution.
Yeah.
We never really fought for anything, and that's why we're sheepish. That's why we're like, oh, don't want to take the seat away from you.
I mean, my parents were Christian.
Yeah, so that's but again, Christians sometimes act no different. They're like I remember, I think I was doing, what was it? Oh, Malaysian Constitution, and arguing for death penalty. I used the Bible, and the person was making fun of me. He's like, huh, Bible? Nobody cares about that. You gotta talk about jurisprudence. The Bible has a lot of jurisprudence. What's your point? And again, some people might look at that and be like, oh, you're stupid. But wait, just as a reminder, Malaysian statutory law is taken from British common law,
Which is
from Deuteronomy. so, hello, someone forgot their Christian heritage, right? And what's funny, another thing was, Christian, what was his name? Richard Dawkins, the atheist. He's like hard adamant atheist, and yet recently he talks about he's afraid about the Muslim rise, the Muslim insurrection in America,
Yeah.
because culturally he's a Christian. He what was it? He likes hymns. He likes looking at the cathedrals from apart. He thinks Christianity is abhorrent. He thinks it's for killing babies and all that. But he wants the hymns. He doesn't want the dua in the evening. He's a apple pie lover who hates apple trees. Doesn't make sense. But again, the problem with our generation, I think, is exactly that. We have a lot of apple pies. We have a lot of freedom, because I think our laws, taken from a godly law, has brought about a lot of freedom, and yet Jesus is not touted as the thing that gave us the freedom. So now we're like, we came to all these freedom on our own. We don't need Jesus.
by natural evolution and trial and error.
Yeah, nonsense. Right? That's absurd nonsense. They say the state gives you your right. The government gives you your right. Nonsense. If the government gives you your right, they can take it away. God, rights are inalienable things given by God, because you are part of His image. So again, those are the things. If anything, I wish gets brought to bear, and those are the things that people can't run away with. They can't just say, well, Western wish dream, oh, such impossible thing. Not only is it, it's not impossible, it's our history. A lot of our history borrows all the time from Christian empires, Christian institutions that have already have headways. Right? We talk about slavery not too long ago, about how, societally we put ourselves in a high pedestal because we've gotten rid of slavery. But wait, slavery is like universal human experience until like 400 years ago. Yeah. So and then
it's still wrong.
yeah, it definitely is still.
Yeah.
It's just that the worst form of it, the worst form of chattel slavery, is universally seen as abhorrent, and we forgot that's a Christian doing that. The Christian who's not afraid of his faith in public, who's not afraid to say, these black people, they are our neighbors, and the Bible demands us to treat them the same way we treat our Anglo-Saxon neighbors.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of it. I don't know if there's any other thing you guys wanted to bring up about Christian nationalism, maybe any other objection, any other side topics.
we address denomination domination.
Oh yeah, sorry, we didn't actually do that. Let's do that real quick. I guess there's like a lot of talk on like, oh, which denomination's gonna rule.
Yeah, like that's the question, right?
And sadly, here's the thing, like it or not, well, I'm not gonna do the whole, oh, we can all work together type nonsense. I really don't think that's it. Here's the problem. A lot of the Baptist, Charismatic, a lot of the lower denomination, I'm not saying lower end value, just as in like younger, younger in terms of conception, they have not developed kind of like magisterial theology to run the country.
No.
And so, like it or not, they're gonna take a back seat if our Christian nationalist project ever gets greenlit.
Truth be told, the unrecovered thing about the main line is that we kind of know.
Right.
We kind of know.
I have an interesting quote from Westminster, and I think this is a pretty good answer. In Westminster chapter 23, it says, civil magistrates, the government, may not assume to themselves the administration of the word and sacrament, obvious separation,
Yes, yeah.
right? Or the power and the keys of the kingdom of heaven, or and at least interfere in matters of faith. Yet, as nursing father, it is the duty of civil magistrates to protect the church of our common Lord. So the state has to protect the church, right? It's not, and that's definitely something I wish for today, because back in Indo, churches are getting burned left, right, center, and we can't even make cases about the arson that's being done. So we definitely want Christian nationalism to manifest, at least in this level, right? That the magistrates care for the churches, they protect the churches of our common Lord, without giving the preference to any denomination of Christian above the rest, in such a manner that all ecclesiastical person, whatever, shall enjoy full, free, unquestioned liberty of discharging every part of their sacred function without violence or danger. So if the charismatic guy really does want to raise his hand and speak in tongues in public, the state and other Christians have to
Supposed to allow.
allow them, yeah. And but again, they have to protect the churches that are being assaulted. They can't simply, kill our pastors and burn our churches
Mhm.
for absolutely no reason and get absolutely free, get clean away from it. But yeah, there's already, like, this is not a new thing, right? The American people, the British people, the European people, they already thought about this. This is not the first Christian nationalist movement. They already know what it looks like to have multiple denominations in the nation. Sometimes it doesn't look clean, but most of the time, it's actually generally good. To which I think one of the last thing I want to bring up was kind of how fast Christianity usually gets a lot of these dominion, right? So, for example, 300 AD to 313, the church faced like one of the worst persecution in all of human history, right? Our bodies get mutilated, like the saints, their bodies get mutilated, so much so that they had to make it illegal to mutilate Christians because they couldn't get rid of the body parts. And then they had too much human candlesticks to line up the streets. The Christians were being turned into candlesticks. That's 313. And then Constantine wrote the Edict of Toleration, the Edict of Milan,
Mhm.
so that they cannot persecute Christians anymore. And then by 325, that's literally, 12 years, we have the Council of Nicaea, where they're trying to work together how can Christians coexist, how to define Trinity, how to define Christology, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's like our lifetime. Some of us are 25, you're 25. But imagine, you're born, by 13, you face one of the worst persecution, and by 25, the entire Roman Empire, which, let's be honest, practically the whole world, has become Christian. Like, Christian has become the dominating religion, and nobody thinks when they're 13 as a Christian, they're like, how do you think we'll run the place when we conquer the world? And by 25, you're already on top of the world. But again, I think the funny feature I'll point out is the Christians seem to they seem to work with a manual. It's not like they're lost. Oh no, I don't know what to do. The emperor's asking me, and I have no room for public theology. I have like no space to run a country, run a nation, run an ecclesiastical and magisterial sphere. Seems like they do. Seems like they were prepared, knowing full well they might die tomorrow. And yet, the emperor becomes Christian and like, oh, Nice. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about how some doctrines that we're not ever gonna tolerate, as if they are gonna be tolerated themselves. Again, just again a funny feature. I think that's kind of how God works, and He's gonna continue working that way. We're gonna be made fun of for talking about Christian nationalism, but I think we're like 5 years, 10 years short from discussing the real potential of it. Maybe we'll have a Sarawak. Maybe Sarawak will be a country by then.
Malaysia is always about like 10 years behind the West.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess that's kind of the end of it. I don't know if there's anything other. The only book I would recommend on this topic, which there's not a lot, is actually an article by Chalcedon Foundation. It's called A Stone Cut Without Hands. That's a really good book. If anyone is interested in like topics of Christian nationalism, they're serious, they're a scholar, they don't want to get involved in all the American politics. So I think the like serious theological paper are more on the Stone Cut Without Hands. Because if they read like Stephen Wolf's book on Christian nationalism, there's like a lot of American stuff,
Yeah.
and then I don't want people to be coming in and say, "Oh, see, it's all America. This is not a Malaysian. This is not an Asian thing. We shouldn't care about this." Which is all again the lie.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll end the episode here. Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up?
Yeah. Where's the beer?
Old Testament law put into place. That would be
a separate episode.
I think
that would take too long.
yeah,
but,
that would take too long.
but yeah, but I wouldn't deny it. Just to bring up some instance, the coastlines will wait for His law. They will say, "Let us go up to the mount of the Lord, to the mount of Jacob, the God Jacob, right? So that we inquire of His law, so that we want to know His way." And that's my more again post-millennial side. People might disagree, but yeah. Oh, there's another funny thing. A lot of people talk about ethnocentrism, like, oh, you gotta build your wall around your ethnicity, and it's good to have your ethnicity. But an interesting thing some people point out is in Isaiah, there's an image. We're told that 5 cities in Egypt will speak the language of Canaan, which is Hebrew, and then the 6th city will be called Destruction. In other words, all the cities of Egypt will be speaking Hebrew, but there's going to be a highway. You know this one. There's going to be a highway from Egypt to Assyria and highway from Assyria to Egypt, and then the people will cross by, and then Yahweh will say, "Egypt, my servant; Assyria, the rod of my hand, the work of my hand," and Israel, my chosen people. So seems like a vision of like a covenanted nations. They will have very porous borders. They're not going to be like racist. They're not going to be ethnocentrist. They're going to be quite porous in the sense of, yeah, migration laws are a thing, but you can go past by pretty well. We're not going to persecute people at the borders. We're not going to make them immigrants, stateless orphans, and all that.
Probably because neither of them are broke.
Yeah, but I think if you just can't make success in Assyria
Yeah.
and you go Egypt, you'll actually be accepted. Yeah. There's no like synthetic bar. Like we talked about this. If I want to get hired in Malaysia, most companies need to pay out 70,000 ringgit.
It's just saying, it's probably because the Malaysians can't quite get jobs.
Yeah, so those
And whose fault was that?
yes, that's definitely not the identity you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to bring. We'll see you again in another episode. So Kingdom Cast signing off. See you guys.